Hi everybody, I'm Charlie, and welcome back to On Air, my Beatles collection. I've been doing a series of videos on the smaller label early Beatles U.S. singles. So the labels I'm going to cover today are Atco, Swan, and MGM. In earlier videos, I've done Tolly, VJ, and I think that's all I've done so far, Tolly and VJ. And I've done Capital of Canada, which is different than Capital USA. And I've done a Capital US Starline series. Those are the Green Swirl Oldies label. I've done the Orange Swirl Capital of Canada label. And many of these other singles on these other labels that I've done, Tolly, VJ, and now Swan, Atco, MGM, these songs were, some of them anyway, were on the Capital of Canada Orange Swirl label, but Capital in the US decided that they didn't want some of these records, the early ones, because the Beatles were not known here in the US, and they didn't think the music was particularly similar to what we were listening to on the radio. They thought it was a little different and probably thought it wasn't going to be as popular. So they passed on releasing these records in the US, and smaller labels picked them up, or labels that already had the rights for some other reason. Anyway, so I'm going to go over those, and some of them are, pretty valuable and pretty rare. Some of them are, rare and less common, and you might not have seen them before. So let's get started. First I'll start with MGM. MGM had the rights to My Bonnie, and they put a picture sleeve with My Bonnie and the Saints, also known as When the Saints Go Marching In. And this is the Beatles with Tony Sheridan. And of course, Tony sang My Bonnie, but of course, the big print here is the Beatles, because the Beatles had made it pretty big by the point in time that this came out. And here I have in an MGM factory sleeve, and on a promo special disc jockey record, not for sale, My Bonnie. I'll take it out of the sleeve. You can see that Larry S. decided to put his autograph on there, but you could also see that this record is in excellent condition. And Larry didn't bother to put his initials or name autograph on the other side. Both of these list the Beatles with Tony Sheridan on the bottom. They definitely de-emphasize the Tony Sheridan part. I don't normally keep it in this MGM factory sleeve, but I did it so it would be more pretty for this presentation right now. I've been referring to the Perry Cox price guide when I talk about these records, just in terms of trying to give you a feel for value. But the Perry Cox most recent price guide, I think, was 2007 or 2008. So, you're talking about, almost 20 years ago. And so it's hard to know what the values are these days. In some cases, values go down over time if some are discovered or whatever. And sometimes they go way up in value. But I'll just tell you the range. He always had, all the way on the left, he would have the lowest value, and then all the way this way, the highest value. And it's quite a spread. So it's usually good at this end, which almost means poor. It's a record and it's not broken, but it's probably, not in terrific shape. Maybe it plays all the way through, probably has a lot of surface noise. Then at the other end is near mint. And most records are not near mint. Certainly not when they get to this age. Now this one is pretty darn good. It's automatically not near mint if somebody signs their name to it. So anyway, the value on this promo that he had in the book from, 20 almost 20 years ago, was 40 to 400. So clearly this is a rarity. It's probably worth more than 400 now. 20 years later, almost, it's been protected for many, many years now, and add 17 years to that. It's been protected for a long time in plastic and kept separately. It's probably worth more than 400 now. But I wouldn't say it's near mint. I would say the whole range probably moved north, and this is probably maybe if you were using a scale from here to here, this one is probably here in value. So whatever that scale is, if it was 400 at the time, it might be 600 or 800 now. So I think this is a $400 or $500 record, but I don't know for sure. This is the record that actually came in the picture sleeve, the one I'm going to show you now. So this is a factory sleeve from my Bonnie, and that's what that one looks like. As you can see, this one is in pretty good shape too. There is the Saints, when the Saints go marching in. Same credits on the bottom, little tiny Beatles with Tony Sheridan. A couple little imperfections on the label. You can see some wear there and a little white dot there. Same on this side. Little bubble over here on this side. But overall, pretty good record, pretty good condition. Perry's price guide on this one had 3 to 60, quite a range. I don't see it being worth $60, but could be. In this case, the sleeve, the sleeve is the value. A lot of these did not come with a sleeve, and so the sleeves are a little more valuable. Here's another copy of that one. This one was $3 to $40. This is an East Coast copy. The other one was a West Coast copy. Actually, this one also, let me take it out again, sorry. This one has, on the bottom, all the way down to the bottom, it has a reference to the album that it's from. So I don't know if you can see that, but it says with Tony Sheridan from album, and then it has a catalog number. It doesn't have the name of the album, it just has a catalog number. So this is considered a West Coast copy. And the East Coast copy does not have the reference to the album. So you can see down there, it doesn't have that same album reference. This one, unfortunately, has Walter somebody's sticker up there, and also his catalog number for his filing system. And here's the other side, Saints. Now you can also, that's another difference here is on the first one I showed you where it says the Saints, on one line it says the Saints when the Saints go marching in. On this one it says the Saints, and then underneath in smaller letters when the Saints go marching in. So this second one here has a catalog value or a price guide value from Perry Cox's price guide of $3 to $40, and the other one was from $3 to $60. So the actual physical value of each of these might cause them to crisscross whereas the one that's listed at a lower value might actually be worth more just simply because it's in better condition. And the other record that MGM had was Y with Cry for a Shadow. This sleeve is considerably more difficult to find in good shape than the other one is. You know, the My Bonnie one, a bunch of them turned up years later. I believe there was a warehouse full of them or a box full of them somewhere. I remember one year at the Fest for Beatles fans, then known as Beatle Fest, somebody had a whole, like a box of them, maybe, you know, 100 of them or something like that, and they were selling them for $35 or $40. I believe they were real. I don't think they were reprints. I'm not sure about that. That's not where I got mine, but I remember seeing a lot of them, and that was, you know, probably in the, certainly in the 70s, maybe the 80s. It wasn't in the 60s when it would have been released. But this sleeve is very hard to find in good condition, and you're probably talking $200 to $300 now just for this sleeve. And the record that went with it is, actually, I'm looking at the price guide numbers. In the Perry Cox price guide for this sleeve, again from 2008, whatever it was, the sleeve value was $50 to $500. I don't think it's worth $500 even today, but again, it depends on condition. This one is not perfect. You'll see there's a little tear up there. It's kind of hard to see, but it's there. There aren't really any other flaws. And I have two of these, by the way. This one I think is the better of the two, but they're both pretty good. You know, they're not bad at all. And so anyway, this is the record, and the record 15 to 150 for the record. And here Tony Sheridan gets a little better coverage. It's the Beatles with Tony Sheridan, all in the same size letters. And that is true also on the B side, Cry for a Shadow. But you'll also notice who the authors are of that song, Harrison and Lennon. That's, I believe, the only time, the only place, that song that would show up on a 45 that's credited to Harrison and Lennon. So, I mean, that's a good one to have just for that reason, if that, no other reason. Y is credited to Tony Sheridan and Compton, Sheridan Compton. So that's a good one to have. A lot of people look for that sleeve, and they don't really even have the record. I was fortunate to have both. I did not buy them together. I got the record separately. The record is in fabulous condition. I would say the record is near mint. I would say the sleeve is VG plus, maybe. VG. And anyway, the record, according to the price guide of the time, $15 to $150. So the total value between the two, $65 to $650, is what the Perry Cox price guide would say for near mint for both. Now these are both not near mint, but anyway, it's also not 2008 anymore. So they're worth whatever they're worth. So that is the MGM stuff. And now let's talk about Swan. So Swan had only one picture disc. A picture sleeve, sorry. A picture disc. And that was for She Loves You. And of course, this sleeve is worth a few bucks too. This one is in very good condition, as are all my sleeves. And I mean literally VG, very good condition. I wouldn't call it near mint. You know, it has some, you know, some wrinkling at the top and, you know, all that. But, you know, compared to what most of these look like, this is phenomenal. But, you know, it's not near mint. So, you know, I don't want to call it something that it isn't. This is the most valuable Swan record that I have. The Perry Cox guide at the time for this particular version of wait a minute, I got the wrong value on here. So let's see. I got the wrong sticker. Let me see. Sorry. I think I have it over here. I do. Sorry. Thank you. I keep these on these little blue stickers, post-it notes behind the record. So if anybody, like my heirs, need to sell this stuff, they don't sell it for 25 cents at a garage sale. So this is a white label with blue print. She Loves You. It says, don't drop out. There's no quotation marks on the words "She Loves You." These are the things you'll read about if you read about bootlegs and that sort of thing. So this is considered the white label, blueprint, don't drop out version, no quotation marks. They draw a reference in the price guide to Reco Art, RECO. That's not listed on here, but that is that doesn't actually say that on the label, but it does say, it also draws attention to produced by George Martin over here. I think the Reco Art is in the dead wax. Yeah, I just found it all the way. Let's see if you can see it right there. It says mastering Reco Art, Phila, as in Philadelphia, Phila. So those are all the signs of legitimacy, as noted in the Perry Cox book and the Bruce Spicer book, because they, of course, collaborated. Bruce did the research on the different variations, and then they collaborated on in the price guide. But it's a Perry Cox price guide, but it's a Bruce Spicer numbering system that they've used. The book at the time showed this as 70 to 700. I have not seen one for less than 1,000 in a long time. So that is one of my prized possessions. Generally, I keep this actually framed and on the wall, but I took it down for our purposes here. I have a bunch of Swan records of She Loves You on this black Swan Don't Drop Out label. This one, according to the book, this one has a bold title, big letters, bold, bold title, no quotation marks. This is a Monarch pressing, and the price guide value for this is 20 to 200. This one is not in particularly good condition. It would be on the lower end of that value, whatever that value is today. Of course, we don't know what that value is today necessarily, based on there's no active price guide now with current numbers. This one is another copy of the same thing. And this one is in similar condition, lower end of the spectrum. A little label damage on the other side. This is what you're most likely to find in most people's collections, because most people played the record a lot. They didn't take particularly good care of them. They had cheap stereos. They had greasy fingers, whatever they had. I have yet another one here. This is the same. This one has somebody's number label on there. This one is in much better condition than the others. So even though it has that little label on it, I would move this up to the middle of the value. So it's not 20, and it's not 200, but it's probably in the middle, whatever the middle value is now. I don't think there's probably been that much change in the value on that one. This is another one. I don't know why I keep showing you all these. The only reason is this one is much cleaner. It is otherwise the same. It's much cleaner. The print is much brighter and bolder. And the dead wax is much, much easier to read, because it's not as worn out. And this is also a Reco Art, sorry. and this one is the same value as the others, 20 to 200. This one I would put up in the higher end of the higher end of the value. This one is a far more common one. It doesn't look much different. It also is Reco art, but it's got a different catalog number. I don't know what the other variations are. This one specifically says produced by George Martin, which the other ones did not. So this is a later, more common version. This one had a value at the time of the price guide of $6 to $60 in value, and this one is probably even more common. And it's this one does not have the produced by George Martin on it. It is still a Reco art. It's not in as good condition, and this one has a $3 to $35 value. So I'm assuming that is the most common, the one that you're most likely to find in somebody's basement or in their grandpa's record collection. So that's it for She Loves You proper. Of course, that white label with blue print was the prize there. Now here's another prize. This one is not in as good a shape, but this is She Loves You in German, Sie liebt dich, with the same B-side, I'll Get You. And of course, it's not the Beatles, it's Die Beatles. Die Beatles, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but it looks like Die, D-I-E, Beatles. At least on the German side. On the English-speaking side, it still says the Beatles. Still has the Don't Drop Out. That one is, at the time, was listed at $9 to $90. I've seen a lot of these. If you search Swan Beatles and like an eBay, and you see all the different ones, 99% of them look like the black label, and you'll see white ones every 10 positions or so. You'll see the white label with the red print, and from what I have seen recently, every one of them will be this. It will not be the English-speaking She Loves You. It'll be the German Sie liebt dich. And most of them are a couple of $100. Some of them are much more than that, depending upon what condition they're in. I would expect that this one, given the condition that it's in, would be over 100. Now, a price guide for Perry Cox was $9 to $90. This may be in the middle of the price range, but I don't think $9 to $90 is the price range anymore. I think this has gone up considerably. So, if you're in the market for a Sie liebt dich on Swan, white with red print, there's plenty of them out there. But they cost some money, and they're not the price that the English language She Loves You is. I would love to have a red print on white label, She Loves You. I do have the blue one, which you saw before, blue on white. Now here's another one I want to show you. Here is a red label, a white label with red print, She Loves You. And you will find some of these on eBay. But if it has those quotation marks around She Loves You on this particular version, it's fake. So both She Loves You and I'll Get You are in quotes. They should not be. This is well documented in Bruce Spizer's book and in Perry Cox's book, that if it's in brackets, in quotes, it's not the real thing. So buyer beware. This one I didn't bother to put a value on it. I see them selling for $150, $100, but they're for people looking for something on the Swan label, on the white Swan label with the red print, but they're getting fooled, I think, for the most part. I just wrote fake on it because I don't want my heirs to sell this one for $1,000 to some unsuspecting soul, and then you know, they find out later they got faked. And here's another one that is not real, and this one doesn't even try to counterfeit. You know, this is a counterfeit because they're trying to directly copy a legitimate one, but they added those quotation marks. This one tries to look like a Swan, white label with red print, but it's a different color, red, and it's a different record. You can see the different color right away. And this is Come Give Me a Deine Hand. So it's the German language. It does say Die Beatles on the bottom. And then it's got How Do You Do It on the B side. Of course, both of those songs were available elsewhere. You know, Capitol had the rights to Come Give Me a Deine Hand, as well as See Leipzig at a later point, and you know, they released those on Rarity's album, and I think maybe on Something New, or Beatles' second album. I forget what's on what album. But Swan did not ever release them legitimately on a single, so somebody just made this one up. On this one I put fantasy, because it's not a fake in the sense that it's not a counterfeit. It's something that doesn't exist except here. And so it's clearly not, you know, legit. How Do You Do It? You know, if you're not familiar, that is the Jerry and the Pacemakers hit that George Martin insisted the Beatles record, and he wanted them to put it out as their single, and they did not want to. They did not like the song and did not want to put it out, and they didn't. And it didn't show up until the anthology in terms of, you know, actually being published. But anyway, it showed up on this fantasy Swan label record. And of course, there's this other one that I talked about. So the only legit red on white label that I have on Swan is this See Leipzig. And of course, the best one, as I told you right up front, the best one I have is this guy right here. You know, She Loves You and I'll Get You, on the white label with the blueprint. That is the one. So that is the Swan label stuff. I have one more quick label to show you on this video, and that is Atco. And here is the one Atco sleeve for Ain't She Sweet. This sleeve is also worth a few dollars. It's in good condition. They're hard to find in good condition. And the record, of course, was Ain't She Sweet. And I have I kept these in a legitimate factory sleeve. These are not repros. These are original factory sleeves. This record is in very good shape. It's got somebody's 20 on there, but it's in very good shape. Nobody's Child is the B-side. So John, of course, is singing the Ain't She Sweet, and Tony Sheridan, I believe, is singing Nobody's Child. Both show the Beatles, well, Nobody's Child shows the Beatles with Tony Sheridan, but Ain't She Sweet does not. It just shows the Beatles. And you'll notice on the left, it says vocal by John Lennon. Now, there's two variations on the vocal by John Lennon. There's larger print, and there's smaller print. And this one is considered the large print. And this one had a value range of $5 to $75. Here's one with the smaller print, again in a factory sleeve. Otherwise looks the same. Tony Sheridan reference on one side. In this case, there's a flaw, tiny little flaw in the label, where it kind of obscures the J in John. At first, I thought it was a promo hole, and it does look like a hole. Looks like you can see through it. But I don't think they promoted these, so I'm not sure why it would have a drill hole in it. But maybe it is, but you know, I don't think that adds any value. It doesn't say promo on it or anything like that. So I wouldn't think it would add very much value, if any. This is another small print. So I won't take this out. This is another small print, vocal by John Lennon. This is another one, but it's not in very good shape. This one is kind of, see the wear around the sleeve. It's actually dirty wear around the sleeve. That could probably be wiped clean actually with a solution, but it might take some of the ink out of it, so I won't mess with it. So here's another one, vocal by John Lennon in large print. This one's a little different because it does not show the vocal by John Lennon. This one is worth a little bit more. This one does have a drill hole in it, definitely a drill hole. Sorry, right above the T, the upper left, you could probably see the white shining through there. It does not reference. The vocal by John Lennon in this case is down underneath the Beatles. It's not on the left like the other one. This is more rare. This one had a value of $8 to $90. And I think, an intelligent buyer that looks at the price guides and the catalogs would probably pay for that, pay a little bit more for that. And then there's this one. This is a record that's very hard to find. And this one had a catalog value of $27 to $275. And this is the Beatles with Tony Sheridan doing Sweet Georgia Brown. I have seen a fantasy picture sleeve for this, but it's fantasy. There was no picture sleeve. It's made to look similar to this, but it is not an Atco released sleeve. And so Sweet Georgia Brown with Tony Sheridan, and the other side is Take Out Some Insurance on Me, Baby. That one does not give any writer's credit, which is another oddity about this record. It just says the Beatles with Tony Sheridan. It doesn't show who the author of the song is. This side does. Sweet Georgia Brown shows an author. So that's an oddity. And this one is really hard to find. Value $27 to $275. And, I posted this record along with the others on my Facebook page not too long ago. And, a lot of people, like this, they like the Ain't She Sweet record. A lot of people don't have that. But some people commented on that. But the other comments I got were Sweet Georgia Brown. People said they've been searching for that for years and haven't found one. I'm guessing this one's worth more than the price range that was quoted back in time. And then the last thing I'll show you here is, this is the Atco oldies label, and of course Atlantic Company is Atco. So they put in their oldies series, they put Ain't She Sweet with Sweet Georgia Brown on the same record. So that was a good use of the two hits in quotes that they had rights to, and they put the vocal by John Lennon on the bottom underneath the Beatles, and they did not put any vocal on here, but they put with Beatles with Tony Sheridan, and this one actually says it's in mono, so it has the word mono printed on the left side there. There's nothing super special about that, not particularly hard to find. Maybe it is hard to find. It doesn't have a high value. I mean, the price guide value at the time was $4 to $12. It's probably more than that, some 20 odd years later, but not much more. So anyway, that is my MGM, Atco, and Swan label records. Again, many of these would show up later on Capitol once the rights reverted to them. Not so much the MGM or the Atco, but certainly the Swan. She Loves You. I mean, that was on Beatles albums, and eventually it was an oldie, on the Starline series releases. So anyway, that's it for those labels. And next video will probably be cover songs, artists that covered Beatles songs. There's two categories. I kind of have two categories of those. Songs the Beatles gave away, which is songs that they wrote but didn't actually record for themselves. And then there's cover songs where, you would know the title, but you would not necessarily know it by that artist. So that'll be a future video, or two probably. There's a lot of people that have covered Beatles songs, and I'll try to split that up so it's not an hour-long video. And then songs Beatles gave away is a little bit smaller category, but not a lot smaller. And I have many of those records. I don't have them all. It's an impossible mission to try to find every record that's ever been released that covers a Beatles song, or that is a song the Beatles gave away. But I did my best to try to find as many of them as I can, and I'm always on the search for them. So I'll share those with you when I do a future video. So that's it for now. Hit the like button, please, if you like this video. If you have any comments or you know something more than I do about these records, or you have a question about them, please do. And put that in the comments. And if you're not yet a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. And I will add this comment: if you're not yet a member of my Facebook page, it's My Beatles Collection. We have over 5,000 members there. Some of this stuff I share still pictures of. And of course, everybody who's a member has the ability to post, pictures of their own collection on there, items from their collection. I don't allow any selling on there because that's where most of the scammers come from. But look for me on Facebook too if you're not already familiar with that. There's a couple of pages called My Beatles Collection. Mine has a picture, which is a box set of the Beatles collection, but not the blue box, the gold box from Australia. And I changed it to My Beatles Collection. So if you see that picture, that's the one I'm talking about. And as I said, it'll show probably 5,100 members. You do have to answer a few questions. You do have to agree not to sell product on there. And then I'll let you in. So anyway, thanks for stopping by today. I hope to see you again, and hang in there. Stay tuned for more. Bye-bye.